So I don't know if this is some kind of obscure reference to an anime I don't know about, but Israel Adesanya just openly racially abused Dricus Du Plessis very directly and very clearly in his podcast with his brother David Adesanya. They started talking about the Alex Pereira fight and just life in general, and now they started talking about the Dricus Du Plessis fight in the future and what was going to be next for Israel Adesanya. Let's have a listen. I'm going to listen to what Israel Adesanya says. I'm going to give my take on it, and I'm also going to show some other things as well that I want to break down in this video. Let's start straight away with this.
I know who I see. I've already talked to Dana, and I try to set up some things, but
apartheid.
Yeah.
So David Adesanya just references apartheid as a word, and together they both acknowledge that that means Dricus Du Plessis. Okay? So that's how it starts, and that's how Dricus Du Plessis is brought up immediately. David Adesanya, the obese one on the right, starts just saying apartheid as a word to reference a person in Dricus Du Plessis. But it doesn't end there. This is nothing. We get into what Israel Adesanya is going to say.
Now, I'll tell you one thing. Okay, you know what? What I actually really don't like, I'm going to take him to school in the octagon and on history. Because what he's doing is creating divide. You can't.
What he's doing is creating divide. That's what Israel Adesanya has a problem with. He has a problem with Dricus Du Plessis creating divide by saying that he's going to be the African champion in the UFC. Dricus Du Plessis said, okay, did any of those belts come back to Africa? As far as I'm aware, they went back to New Zealand, where Israel Adesanya is right now with his belt, and to America, which is where the other belts went as well. And he's going to bring a belt back to Africa, and he's going to be the African fighter in the UFC that brings a belt back to Africa, that trains out of Africa. That's what Dricus said, which is true, but Adesanya and Usman took massive offense to this. Let's listen to what he said, after just saying that he's angry that Dricus has created divide.
Knowing your history, I've never questioned him as an African. Because, yeah, you were born in Africa, South Africa. Of course, you're an African. I've never questioned that. But who the
How very progressive of him. But let's get into the anger that he's about to unleash.
But who the fuck is this cracker to tell me who the fuck I am? Who the fuck Kamaru is? Who the fuck Ngannou is? I'm like, are you dumb?
Okay. Now, honestly, I couldn't care less about that word. It means nothing whatsoever. I'm not offended by that word in any way whatsoever. But I know the intent of that word is to insult someone because they are white. And to insult someone on the basis of them being white. And that's the little bit of a tricky situation. You know what I'm saying, Israel Adesanya? The word itself means absolutely nothing whatsoever. But when someone who isn't white calls someone who is white that word, they are insulting them based on them being white. And that's the interesting bit, Israel Adesanya. And then he gets angry about who the fuck is he to tell about who I am and who Usman is and who Ngannou is. Like, chill. You're in New Zealand with your belt. Kamaru's in America with his belt. And Francis Ngannou's in America with his belt as well. That's all he said about you guys. Why are they taking this so personally? Almost like he struck a nerve. But yeah, he used that word, which is a racial slur against white people, and he used it on Dricus Du Plessis. And this is the first time that's ever been done in modern UFC history. Israel Adesanya, the trend setter that he is. There's more to it, though.
As a product of colonization, you're trying to tell me who the fuck I am. You can take the boy out of Africa, but you can never take the Africa out of the boy.
You can take the boy out of Africa, but you can never take the Africa out of the boy. He didn't say you weren't African. These guys, Usman and Adesanya specifically, these people who grew up in Africa for a few years when they were a child and barely were cognitive as humans because their brain didn't fully develop yet and they barely even remember those moments in their life, and then moved to another country in New Zealand or America when they were very, very young, and that's the life that they've known and been raised under. They're really, really touchy about this. Like he said, you took your belt back to New Zealand. You're in New Zealand right now with your belt. Usman took his belt back to America. Usman's in America right now with his belt. He's going to take a belt back to Africa because he lives and trains out of Africa. The same way Edwards referenced Bisping, and everyone bigged that up, the fact that Edwards was doing it out of the UK and he lived in the UK while Bisping didn't. The same way Moreno was praised as the first Mexican fighter in the UFC that was out of Mexico when he became a champion and trained out of Mexico. No one had a problem with that, but Usman and Adesanya have a real problem with it.
I never ever did that to him. I never discredited him as an African. I just, okay, there you are, cool. You want to make a fight, cool. But the fact that as a fucking cracker to tell me.
He goes further with it and just repeats it again. Another insult purely based on him being white. Very interesting. I'd love to see how Ariel Helwani reacts to this one. I'd love to see how Ariel reacts because he grilled Dricus Du Plessis for about 30 minutes on this. I wonder if he'll have anything to say about Israel Adesanya bringing up this. Literally over and over again, twice now in this video, calling Dricus Du Plessis a racial slur. I wonder what the media is going to say about this. I wonder if they'll be really, really upset about it like they were when, Cody Durden mentioned sending back Aori Chweleng to China with a loss where he came from because Aori Chweleng's from China. I wonder if they're going to be really crazy about this or if they're just going to completely ignore it. I guess only time will tell. I've got a hunch that they're going to completely ignore it.
Me, who the fuck I am. That.
He's not telling you who the fuck you are. Who is this to tell me who the fuck I am? He just said that belt went back to New Zealand. Here you are sitting on your couch in New Zealand with the belt. That's true. They're so antsy about this. It's almost, dude, David Adesanya might have Down syndrome. Look at his face throughout all of this. Maybe he's just high out of his mind. But either way, they're really touchy about this. Almost like they know it's kind of true. And that's why it struck a nerve so much to where Israel Adesanya, for the first time in modern UFC history, is one of the first fighters to openly use a racial slur against another opponent. Crazy.
That pissed me off. And that's why he's my next fight. Because I don't want to fight anyone else. This one pisses me off.
This one annoys him, okay? But we move on to another moment where Israel Adesanya said a bit more. And it was at 1:28:01 into this video, right around here.
But he thinks they're going to have his back.
This is about the other Africans and talking about Dricus Du Plessis. He thinks they're going to have his back.
It's only the product of him that's going to have his back.
It's only the product of him that's going to have his back. Okay.
Have his back, but he doesn't understand like who I am. And like I said, he's creating division. I don't like that because
he's creating division. I don't like that. He just openly racially. You can't make this stuff up, dude. He's creating division. I don't like that. He's going to take his belt back to New Zealand, where his home is. Israel Adesanya at home in New Zealand with his belt, where he took the belt back to, the country that he fights out of and lives in. He's creating division. The fucking just racially abuses him twice now in this video. But Dricus is the one creating division. He never brought race into it for a second. You and Usman did. And Ariel Helwani did. He's just speaking facts because here you are at home in New Zealand with your belt and not in Africa where he is training for a Whittaker fight right now. But he's the one creating division. Not you using racial slurs. Again, I have no problem with the word. I just know its intent. And that's the prickly subject.
He didn't have to do that. Yep. He didn't have to do
that. It's already getting dark.
Yeah, don't worry, no.
It's getting kind of dark, says David. After he's just heard what Adesanya said. Yeah, Dricus doing that made it a bit dark. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't have to do that, says Israel Adesanya. Which is very interesting. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to mention that Adesanya. Did you listen to that? Let's go back again, because I'm going to expose Adesanya here.
Who I am. Like I said, he's creating division. I don't like that, because he didn't have to do that.
He's creating division. I don't like that, because he didn't have to do that. And he's creating division because Dricus Du Plessis pointed out that Israel Adesanya was born here but doesn't no longer live here and has now moved over to New Zealand. And that's him creating division. And he didn't have to do that. Israel Adesanya doesn't like that. Let's see what Israel Adesanya said about Robert Whittaker in the build-up to their fight the first time at UFC 234 or 243, I believe. Let's have a little listen to what Israel Adesanya said about Whittaker here. A hidden piece of footage that I've found on BT Sports files.
He's completely Australian. He's on record in the past saying, like, I'm not a New Zealander, I'm an Australian. And he wanted to be represented as Australian in the UFC when he started, and that was his identity, Australia. He disowned New Zealand in a way. I've never disowned my heritage. I've got Africa stamped on my chest. My skin is black. You'll always know where I'm from. But I love this place. I live in Auckland, and Auckland's my home, New Zealand's my home, and Australia's his home. And now he's trying to come over here and get likes like a politician.
Yeah, Izzy.
You can smell it's gross because it's not really from the heart. I don't vibe with that.
3, 2, 1. All right.
There's a line in the sand, and you're on that side. I'm on this side.
Ooh.
Creating division. There's a line in the sand, and you're on that side, and I'm on this side. He disowned being from Australia. He's no longer New Zealander. He disowned his heritage. I've never done that. Let's have a listen back again. This is Israel Adesanya doing what he said Dricus is wrong for doing. There's no more creating division than putting a line in the sand and saying, I'm New Zealand and you're Australia. According to you, you're not even New Zealander. You're not even a Kiwi, according to you. But yet you're coming over from Nigeria and creating division between New Zealand and Australia, when you're not either of them, according to you. At least Dricus is one of them. If he's creating division, which he's not, he's just pointing out a fact. Let's go and listen again to some things here, and I'm going to show you some things.
Adesanya is a longtime resident of
He's completely Australian. He's on record in the past saying, like, I'm not a New Zealander, I'm an Australian. And he wanted to be represented as Australian in the UFC when he started, and that was his identity, Australia. He disowned New Zealand in a way. I've never disowned my heritage. I've got Africa stamped on my chest. My skin is black.
He's never disowned his heritage. He never represented New Zealand. He represented Australia. I've never disowned my heritage. Let's have a little listen to some interesting things from the start of Israel Adesanya's kickboxing career. Let's have a listen, shall we?
You'll take a look at me. What are you thinking? I'm a black man? I come from Africa? Come on, please, look at my heart. Haven't you seen it yet? Wait a second. Yes, I'm a Chinese. I have a Chinese heart.
Yes, you may be thinking I'm from Africa. I'm a black man. But wait, I'm Chinese. I've had China in my heart. How interesting, Israel Adesanya. Let's look at another thing here.
Ni hao, I am the Black Dragon. I was born in Nigeria. I grew up in New Zealand, but I have lived in China, so I've embraced the Chinese culture. I came to China in 2014, and I fell in love with the land. Black outside, China inside. I am Chinese. I'm the Black Dragon.
You're Chinese, are you? Okay. Very interesting, Israel Adesanya. That's really interesting from you. But you've never done that. You've never claimed to be something you aren't. You never disowned your heritage and chucked that to a side for your own personal gain in China. But fair enough. Let's go back to something that he said in that BT Sport video again.
You'll always know where I'm from. But I love this place. live in Auckland, and Auckland's my home, New Zealand's my home, and Australia is his home. And now he's trying to come over here and get likes like a politician. So, yeah, Izzy. You can smell it's gross because it's not really from the heart. I don't vibe with that.
3, 2, 1. All right.
There's a line in the sand, and you're on that side. You know, I'm on this side.
Ooh.
It's very interesting. He claims his heritage, right, chat? Why, there's no live chat. He claims his heritage, right? He doesn't deny his heritage. Let's have a listen to something Israel Adesanya said at a speech in New Zealand, where it would really benefit him to act like a pure New Zealander. Let's have a listen to what Israel Adesanya said.
See, Kiwis, we love a good one-out, you know what I mean? We love a...
See, Kiwis, we love. We? Kiwi? I thought you were from Nigeria. I thought he was from Nigeria, but apparently not. We? Fair enough. Denying Usman's logic of being able to claim a nationality. Fair play.
A good fight. This is part of the culture. Straight up. I mean, we're a country of a warrior race.
We are a country of the warrior race. The Maori.
Warrior race, the Modi. This is part of our culture. If a fight broke...
Our culture. This is part of our culture. I wonder if... Now fair play. Culture, our country, it's our vibe, it's who we are. Fair play. He's not mentioning like his DNA. He's not saying that his DNA goes back in New Zealand or anything like that. Because that would really be contradictory to everything he's just said in that BT Sport clip about Robert Whittaker, and also in the thing that he did on his podcast and claimed that Dricus was bad for doing. He didn't do that, did he? There's no way he would claim that his DNA goes back in New Zealand when it doesn't.
If a fight broke out right now, what would you all do? You would ignore me and watch the fight. It's in our DNA.
It's in our DNA. So where are you from then, dude? It's in our DNA. That's really interesting from Israel Adesanya there.
You would ignore me and watch the fight. It's in our DNA.
It's in our DNA as Maori people of New Zealand and Kiwis. It's in our DNA. It's in our Maori, New Zealander, Kiwi, Nigerian DNA, of course. It's in our DNA, guys. Accept me over here. You're literally a culture vulture. You go to China, you claim you're Chinese. You go to New Zealand, it's in our DNA as the Maori people of New Zealand. You're from Nigeria. But when the question of whether or not you're all of a sudden, you're Nigerian, you're the African fighter. I'm a real African. What are you talking about? If I was an African watching Israel Adesanya throughout his career, I'd be like, wait, what do you mean you're Chinese? Wait, what do you mean in our DNA as a New Zealander, as a Maori people? You're from Nigeria. But then whenever it's time to do a parade around Nigeria with the belts and get a ton of glory and get all the fan base from Nigeria, all of a sudden I've been African this whole time. My roots go deep here. I've always been a Nigerian first. Forget that time I said I was Chinese and said I was Maori. Forget that. I've always been African and Nigerian first. It seems like you're whatever the fuck you want to be, wherever it suits you best, mate. You're a national chameleon, if you will. And you're calling out Dricus for that? Crazy. And let's not forget about him saying that he's Chinese. I'm Chinese. And all this type of stuff that he did when he was over in China. What a weird reference that Usman would bring up to go against Dricus Du Plessis.
A part of this cancel culture. But I understand what he's trying to say. But the one thing that I think he's failing to realize is, just because I go to China and my parents are in China and I'm raised in China, that doesn't make me more Chinese than the people from China. That doesn't make me more Chinese. And so just because you went over to South Africa and you were raised there, that doesn't make you African. So, I would say to him is just, try to be a little bit more careful with what you say. And
What? Be careful about what you say. Just because I go to China, and I'm raised there, that doesn't make me more Chinese than the people there. That doesn't make me Chinese. That doesn't make you African. To Dricus Du Plessis, even though his family, his parents and his grandparents were born and raised in South Africa.
You'll take a look at me. What are you thinking? I'm a black man? I come from Africa? Come on, please, look at my heart. Haven't you seen it yet? Wait a second. Yes, I am a Chinese.
Okay, it writes itself. It just writes itself, man. It's crazy, dude. It's absolutely crazy. Let's listen to what Adesanya has to say on this as well.
He didn't have to do it.
It's already getting dark.
No, don't worry, no. Trust me, like, you understand. I'm here now. I'm gonna fuck this guy up. David. I'm gonna torture this guy.
Oh yeah, I know.
No. I'm gonna torture this guy. You haven't.
No, trust me, I understand.
All right, I'm stopping. I'm getting.
Yeah.
Nah, it's not even like I'm angry, but I know when I show up, I'm gonna torture this
and
guy.
especially when someone does shit like that.
Bro, I'm gonna do it like my ancestors.
I'm going to do it like my ancestors. Dude, I hate being the... Imagine if it was the other way around, but Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Imagine if Dricus was saying this shit. Imagine if Dricus was... I know the racial slurs are very different because of historical context. I know that. I completely understand that. But come on, I'm going to do it like my ancestors. Imagine if Dricus was saying this shit. He literally said, that belt went home to New Zealand, the other two went home to America, mine's going to come home to Africa because I'm born and raised in Africa and I train out of Africa and I'm the African fighter in the UFC. And he's getting this as a response from Israel Adesanya?
Gonna yeah.
You're gonna beat him until it's black?
Yeah, on that. You'd be a real African then.
Gonna be one of us, Dricus.
Oh, he's gonna be a New Zealander? That's weird. I don't know. They brought up the idea of back breaking, which is if you want to look into it, it was done to some like transatlantic slaves. It's some real sus. It's some real sus racism, if you will. If you look into it, okay, which was done towards some American slaves, which, you know, I'm not going to get into it. Let's move around this minefield. Israel can say all this on YouTube, but I don't want to bring up anything because I know I'll be taken off. I might already have been.
Free Mandela.
But fuck. I mean, you don't have to create division. This is not the time for division. You could have.
You don't have to create division. This is not the time for division. You fucking... I can't even say it. Can I say it? I'm sure I can, but I don't want to risk it on YouTube.
Definitely got the fight without talking all that shit. But now you be careful what you wish for. You got what you want. So yeah, he's next. And I'm going to...
You didn't have to do that to get the fight. You did it to get the Whittaker fight. You already had the Whittaker fight. You were an interim champ. There's no way you wouldn't get that fight, and you still brought up division between New Zealand and Australia and called him a fake Australian and a fake New Zealander because he disowned himself being New Zealander because he moved from there as a child. You said Whittaker disowned being New Zealander because he moved from there as a child. He's not a real New Zealander. There's a line in the sand. I'm on this side and you're on that side. You're not even from New Zealand, according to you, in this video. Maybe in another video you are. In another video you're from China, so it's like, who knows with Israel Adesanya at this point. But let's see some other stuff, which is going to be interesting. I want to go back and find the point where he said some really weird stuff to Dricus Du Plessis.
Are you dumb? I've never questioned that. But who the fuck is this cracker to tell me who the fuck I am? As a product of colonization at the boy. I never ever did that to him. I never discredited him as an African. I just, okay, there you are, cool. You want to make a fight, cool. But the fact that as a fucking cracker to tell me who the fuck I am.
Real strong words from Israel Adesanya. Let's look at this article of when Israel Adesanya was bullied as a child in New Zealand because of the color of his skin. Let's have a little read, shall we? The Nigerian-born MMA fighter. Gather round, everyone. It's time for story time with Guru. The Nigerian-born MMA fighter told the Daily Telegraph that it's something he dealt with ever since he was a child. This is racism. I really didn't realize me being black was a problem until I got to New Zealand, Adesanya said. My first week in school, there was a kid who was being a dick to me. He lived down the road. He kept riding by my house with his friend, telling me, go back to your own country. I didn't understand it. It was so foreign. I didn't even know this guy. Why was he being so mean to me? Adesanya said the abuse led him to fight the bully. What's shown on screen, right? We're going to scroll down a little bit here. That next week at school, he came up to me after interval and pushed me to the ground, and I lost my shit. I beat him up from D block to K block, beat him up for a minute and a half, and I was crying while I was whooping his ass, and I ran away and went to hide. It was a pretty traumatic experience for myself. I just didn't understand, says Israel Adesanya. I just didn't understand. Why are you being mean to me because of the color of my skin? I still can't fathom it because I'm not of that creed.
You want to make a fight? Cool. But the fact that as a fucking cracker to tell me who the fuck I am. You want to make a fight? Cool. But the fact that as a fucking cracker to tell me who the fuck I am.
I just didn't understand. Why are you being mean to me because of the color of my skin? I still can't fathom it because I'm not of that creed.
Are you dumb? I've never questioned that. But who the fuck is this cracker to tell me who the fuck I am? Who's African? I've never questioned that. But who the fuck is this cracker to tell me who the fuck?
You're just a fucking fake across the board, mate. And I'm going to end this video with, I really don't care about the word whatsoever. The intent on it, though, whilst you're sitting here claiming to be against division, is to insult him based on race. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. And you bring up colonizer. You've divided this. You're just another... Oh, man, I don't want to bring this up. But normally when there's a white fighter and a black fighter fighting in combat sports, one side of them seems to make it incredibly racial. Wilder versus Fury. Hopkins did it in the past as well. Usman did this with Covington at their press conference as well. Adesanya has now done it with Dricus Du Plessis. I'm not going to say which side it is that always fucking does this and makes it a racial war. I'm not going to say what side it is, but I'm going to leave you guys up to guess. And Adesanya has followed that tradition here. But the media are going to shut their fucking small dick, low testosterone mouths about this, because that's what they do when it's from this side of the sand, as Adesanya said. He doesn't like people creating division. What have you just done here? I don't care about the word. I care about the intent, and I care about the hypocrisy. Rest in peace, Norm Macdonald. The worst part about him is the hypocrisy, I believe. The hypocrisy of Israel Adesanya. Don't want to create division. Call him this, call him that. You shouldn't have to talk about that type of stuff to set up a fight. You did it to Whitaker in the build-up to your UFC 243 fight. I just showed you that footage. You've never claimed a different heritage. You've always been true to yourself. You claimed New Zealander, that Maori was in your DNA at a speech in New Zealand when it benefited you. You know what I mean? Look up the word colonization on Google. Type in colonization meaning. And look up the second thing. Look up the second thing, the second meaning of colonization. The secondary meaning of it. Adesanya claimed to be from New Zealand when it benefited him and said Maori was in his DNA. And he also started a big divisive war between New Zealand and Australia, which already existed, but he stoked that flame for his Whitaker fight when he didn't have to. He then claimed he was Chinese when he was fighting in China as well. Look up the secondary definition of colonization on Google, and you'll know what I'm talking about here. This is a weird thing that Adesanya has done, and I'm the only person that's going to comment on it. And there you go. Do I care? No. Is Dricus going to care that much? Probably not either. To be honest with you, it's different. That word don't have the same sting as the word that could get used back from Dricus Du Plessis. But it's just crazy, the hypocrisy and double standard that we see as to where this won't even be a headline. This is the most racist thing a fighter in the UFC has ever said about another fighter. Absolute fact. But when Tony Kelly mentioned a nationality of Brazilians that could be Damian Maia, Vicente Luque, Marlon Moraes, Anderson Silva, any of these variations of Brazilians, when he called them dirty, and when Covington did it, that was brought up as a big racial problem. When Durden said he was going to send Aori Chweleng back to China where he came from because he comes from China, that was a big problem. Dricus, at this point, with all of the evidence that I have, is being attacked by Usman, Ariel Helwani, and Israel Adesanya because he is white. And now that Adesanya has said this, you can't deny it. You can't deny at least Adesanya's doing it because of that. He insulted him based on race. Fact. Does it mean anything to me? No, I do not care about it whatsoever. Does not bother me at all. Does it make me want to create more 6'3" children all of a sudden? Yes, it does. Does it make me want to hit the gym? Yes, it does. Because it does annoy me a tad when the hypocrisy is overlooked here. Okay? But still, this is what we're dealing with. It's crazy. And Dricus Du Plessis is now going to have to really tread lightly, Dricus. If you're watching this right now, man, you tread lightly. Because I know Adesanya has just racially abused you openly and directly. I know that he's done that. I know Usman has said that you can't be African unless you're black pretty much because your ancestors came from elsewhere. He said that. I know those two have said that. And Adesanya has racially abused you now in a massive emotional hatred-filled tirade on his podcast. I know they've gone that far. But they won't get any fucking backlash, Dricus. You don't fucking say a word. Do you understand? Because even a slight peep or a meme that you post on Instagram that could allude to this is going to get the entire world against you. You hold strong, Dricus, my brother. Okay? You hold strong and you be the bigger man here. Okay? You stick to what this was about. They didn't bring their belts to Africa. Well, do you know, I'm covering it, but that belt's in New Zealand with Israel Adesanya, as you said it was. You hold strong to that. Do not fall for this, Dricus. If you somehow get past Whittaker, which I don't believe will happen, if you somehow get past Whittaker, you hold strong. Because they will tear you down for the slightest giggle at a joke, repost of a meme, or anything along those lines. You hold strong. Okay? I know he's openly racially abused you. I know he's done that, but nothing's going to happen to him because for some reason, this world is incredibly fair in that regard. You don't fall for this. He's trying to bait you in. Stay strong, keep it clean, and if you do beat Whittaker, bring up some of the points I made in this fucking video at the press conference. You do not fire back. Okay? Because you're representing all of us right now. You know what I'm saying? You're representing all of us. If you know what I mean. As paper. You know what I mean? You're representing us right now. And if you say a little something, you're going to get torn to shreds. Let him openly racially abuse you. I know it's unfair, but it's just something that has to be done because the world is equal and the way people respond to things is incredibly equal. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Crazy. Thanks for the content, Izzy. You fucking hypocrite. and you've got gyno, and you grew up with servants. You don't know fucking struggle. You don't know shit. Go fuck yourself. You're a hypocrite. I don't want to chuck in that, but he's gay.